Thank you for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 80. We're pushing 2 years here in not too long. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Got a big gang going here. We got Steve, Don, Alan, Neil, John, Henry, Petrucci, Jim, Kelly, Leo, Garth, Nick, Dennis, Mike, Big Den, and other people in the list. And I'm going to do my best to watch for electronic hands in the list and on screen here. And John will help me make sure people get into the chat as they pop in late. As normal, we will start with some show and tell, but I did have something that I wanted to ask you guys what we should do later on when show and tell is over and Club Corner is over. I was thinking it might be fun to do either a quick chassis design in CAD, and you guys just throw out numbers. So if you have a slotted pod and a calipers nearby, we can whip one out pretty quick. If you guys are feeding me numbers, I can punch it in pretty quick. Or track design using sectional track, using my track planner to kind of go through the process of, how big is your table, how I would design a track from start to finish for sectional track. So maybe think about which one of those you'd want to do on this chat once we do all the regular stuff. But for now, I see Don has his electronic hand up. What do you got for show and tell today, Don?
Well, give you some progress on my cars that I've been working on.
Awesome. Gonna do a screen share?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
As soon as I figure out how to get the screen back open.
Did you already open up the picture in whatever program you're gonna look at it in?
No, it shrank my screen on me.
Oh. There we go. Ooh, nice. Is that the sideways model?
Yes.
Very nice.
I've been
stock wheels though at the rear anyway.
Well, yeah, that's what came with it.
Is there? Okay.
There's no inserts in it yet.
Yeah, I know
Right.
that. I just didn't remember that they were drilled.
In fact, I was kind of disappointed it gave me such beautiful rear wheels and plastic front ones. But anyway.
Better than Skeletric front wheels. That looks good. Are you going to do a specific livery to it, or are you going for a street car? Or
No, the paint job on it I'm not happy with, so it's just going to be a racer. That's how come the mirrors aren't on it and the little black pieces that were over here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you can throw some stripes on it. Big old 07 or something. Well, that's looking good. How about that blue one? You getting any work done on that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, maybe next week.
One car at a time.
Sure. I hear you on that one. All right. Are you all done then, Don?
Yep, that was it.
Excellent. So Mike has his electronic hand up. What you got today, Mike?
New stuff.
Ooh, the Skeletric Pagani.
Yep. Really pretty paint job on it. Really nice pearl yellow or pearl gold. Excellent.
And then a matte black.
It's a one of the resistant cars.
Mhm.
So it's got very minimal interior on it.
Have you opened it up already?
Yeah, and
Okay.
took the interior out. No sense
Okay.
keeping a heavy interior if you don't need it.
Do you have the interior handy?
Yes, I do.
Oh yeah. So basically the pan interior, but without the driver and wheel and stuff.
Right. And since the windows are black, there's no sense.
Dave, I
So-
think it was Dave Kennedy who the windows are very dark smoke, not completely.
Yes. Well, there's smoked enough that you can't see in it. That's for sure.
Yeah, no need to have the interior for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing is the new Bathurst Castrol Aston Martin.
Nice.
Yeah, that is
That's
nice.
a very pretty car.
It's a
Yeah.
really nice car. Interesting, there's a 10-gram difference between the Aston Martin and the Pagani, even including the interiors.
The
In
Pagani
In
is,
favor of which one?
The Pagani is much lighter.
Okay, yeah, I would thought so.
I think the body detail is less and a little simpler, it seems. But there's a
So-
lot of
Maybe it's all that paint.
it could be.
I mean, the Pagani's a smaller car. Like it's shorter and just generally volumetrically it's smaller.
Well,
Like how-
not much.
oh yeah, maybe.
Not much at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interiors weigh quite a lot. It's just,
Yeah, they do. I'm sure
And-
that the
and it's
detail
high up
interior
weight.
on the Aston is probably pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Which
I
will
give
have to
them-
be remedied.
I give the mirrors one round.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised I got it around the track. I put it in just box stock, or put it on the track box stock, and the tires and stuff were pretty reasonable. I just gave them a little touch up, and they worked out pretty fine. But yeah, the mirrors, I'm sure, are not gonna last very long at all because they're pretty protrusive.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are the kind of mirrors I might go ahead and take off in advance just to reduce the damage to them.
and they're presumably a hard plastic, not rubber, right?
Yes, very much a hard plastic.
Yeah.
I guess you could always like make a mold and just keep casting them as they fly off.
Or cast
You
them
know,
in some
actually-
cast them in some black urethane, and then they just
Yeah.
There you
They're
go.
actually pretty flexible now that I look at it. Moving around. I mean, they are rubberized.
Rubber.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
then put a little
surprised.
bit-
I didn't
yeah.
notice that before, but they are.
Are you sure it's not just how thin that plastic post is?
No, I don't think so.
I think they probably use the same rubber that they use for the arms of the Formula One drivers. It's
Oh, okay.
kind of flexible.
Okay,
That could
so
be.
Oh,
a really
Yeah, that's
stiff
cool.
rubber. Yeah.
Yeah,
they'll
Yeah.
survive. They'll survive. Yeah.
yeah, that'll work. Nice.
Well, the
Good
moral of the
job.
story is don't crash it.
Well, that too, yeah. Well, good on Scholastic for thinking ahead on that one.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Aston is
I think
really
that's-
pretty.
I think that's
Yeah, I
standard
love
for
that.
super
I-
resistant cars.
What's that?
They're doing that
I
more
think the
often.
I think the rubber mirrors are standard for super resistant,
Oh yeah. Huh.
part of the package.
Probably are.
Well, they're definitely hard plastic on the Aston.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for sharing that one, Mike. And Henry's got his hand up. What you got today, Henry?
Want to try a share screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Waiting for the image to come in here. There we go. Oh, you're sharing a video. Okay. This is a different vehicle, or you did a different video being more descriptive about what you did for the car?
Yeah. 3D print of the Land Rover.
Uh-huh. Did you have to do, so you took the parts from an existing Ninco Raid, but
No,
you're able,
yeah.
The chassis, yeah.
or
Oh,
did
the
you take
chassis
the,
is also a 3D print.
yeah,
So I actually took the parts of an old Raid.
and they just popped right in, didn't have to do any modifications?
No, not at all.
Nice.
Everything fits.
Nice. Yeah. And is the body printed in multiple pieces and then glued together?
No.
Oh.
Oh, the
body.
the body is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The
So
chassis is one piece.
The chassis one piece, yeah, sure. But I thought I saw the pieces of the body all separate. That's,
Yeah, they're
that's
all
quite a
separate,
nice
yeah.
idea. I haven't actually thought about doing that. On that kind of car with flat sides and so on, it's probably a good way.
Yeah, it's a little bit stop motion-y on the,
Oh,
on the
sorry.
stream. But
You-
it
you
drives like a good raid truck.
So I handed them.
Does it drive pretty good, Henry?
Uh,
I mean, like a raid?
I have some work because. Can you stop the share screen then, or stop share? I do it.
Oh, yeah, you can stop share. There you go.
There's a lot of work. It's not as good as a normal race,
Okay.
but playing with lead and because I don't I drive on copper tape, so I have nothing on a mag for a magnet.
Henri, you could leave it the way it is and just put a soccer mom in the vehicle with a bottle of Pinot. Perfect.
There you go. Well, it looks good, Henry. Thanks for sharing that. And John, looks like you're ready to share us your progress on various projects.
Yeah,
Take it away.
there are a few things, but I think there's one in particular that you may be interested in.
Yay!
There we go. So this is a little trick I learned from people who actually do real body work on cars. They actually put like a black coat of usually gloss black lacquer, let it dry on the body filler, and then sand it just to see where the highs and the lows are. So I just wanted to show you that you can see like it looks a little stippled, and you can see there are some low parts and some high parts. And then you just keep, and of course on the bottom sill, you do the same thing. And then actually this side turned out fairly well.
It's called the guide coat, John.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. You're more technical than I am.
What was it called?
A guide coat.
Guide coat, right.
They have Eastwood has specific paint that they use for that.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I'll have to look into that. I just used like some black lacquer because it dries quickly and it's very thin.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I noticed too is that the Skelectrix bumper here, I really wasn't too pleased, and I don't think I'd ever get that flat. So I'll show you what I did to solve that, which I think you'll like. So these are just, so you can see the little pit marks there. I'll just zoom in. I don't mean to take up too much time, but you can see how, you can really see, without the paint, it looked pretty good. And then you put the paint on, you go, oh man, I must be blind. And you can see it's really bumpy in the back here. So anyway, I'll just skip through here just to show you. And then I started sanding. And then you can see how it just smooths right over. And it really looks pretty good. Sorry, that's a shot of the C pillar, not of the covered up fuel filler. That's the fuel filler, not the C pillar. That's just thought I'd mention that. It's not totally out of focus. And then there's the rocker where the old, or the orange joins the Skelectrix body there. Now, this is for Leo. I couldn't resist. I had to just see how it was going to look with the wheels on it.
There you go. That looks awesome. completely changes how it looks, right? By just throwing some wheels under it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to look really, really good. Now to solve the rear bumper, I actually scavenged the rear bumper from the kit and fit it on, and it looks 300 times better.
Yeah.
So there it is. I'm just doing a quick rotation on the back so you can see that, and it actually has some pipes in there. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and people can hollow it out or do whatever they want, or put furls in however they wish to finish it off, or just leave it the way it is for racing. And that's the body so far here. Now I know Chris doesn't want the screen. I'm going to leave the screen in for those who don't want it, and then for Chris I'll just pop it out. And I also put the lights in. At this point I hadn't put the door handles in. They were a bit of a challenge, but there's the whole car together, and I'm amazed it's actually square.
So you won't have to do a bunch of tweaking during the molding and recasting process.
No, the only, and so here are all the parts that need to be molded. So I've got a driver that works, that fits, steering wheel, there's the dashboard. I'm going to put, I think I'm going to cast the seat separately, because if I do join it and cast this all as one piece, it's going to be heavy as all get out. So I think I'll cast it as two separate parts. The rear wing that goes across the two supports, and all of the glass. And of course, I'll cast the roll bars, and there are points here. Let me just zoom in here a wee bit. Oops, sorry. There we grab it. There are points where you can actually cement them in.
Yeah.
And if you choose not to, then so be it. Or, again, it's entirely up to whoever's building it. The only thing I have to do is I really have to create correct arms, because the steering wheel is actually quite a ways from from the seat. So that's the only thing I have to create.
So the arms that came with it didn't reach the steering wheel?
No, this body did not come with the kit.
Oh, okay. It's just a static model kit, not a race car kit. That makes
Well,
sense.
it's actually one of my chunked together bodies that I put together, and I have a few of them. It's funny. I have a box that looks like a 1/32 scale morgue. It's really funny. It's like, oh yes, I wonder which body I'll use for this car.
I need an arm like this.
Exactly. Since it's Halloween, it's perfect. It's like, it's great fun. Now here is a question for Dennis, and I guess Chris, if he watches this, is so when the body goes in, and again, this is because I guess the good Lord takes care of idiots and children, and I'm kind of psychologically one, and most certainly the other. This actually fit in, the interior fits in square, just like the model kit should. So Dennis, especially, if you could please advise, for me, I always try to put mounting posts on the side, I guess, because I don't know what I'm doing. Could you please let me know, I could put mounting posts at this point anywhere you like. That's the last step in this. I could put them at like one at the front, one at the rear. I could do two at the back, two in the front. Which would you prefer? Like what would be best for the types of chassis that you build?
Well, I was going to ask you, first of all, how much clearance there is between the bottom of the sills of the body and the underneath of that interior.
Well, there you go. It actually
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. Exactly. So
So
sorry,
there's no way that you could put a chassis under that and have that full interior in there.
okay, then that's really good to know. So what I can do then is actually I can trim this and put a piece of plate struck underneath and lower it. You see where this sort of
Yeah. We're probably going to have about 1/4 of an inch there.
Okay, well that's good to know. Then that's what I'll do. I'll do that to the interior. I'll
Yeah, I
put
mean,
it-
if you can raise the floor until it's maybe 1/4 inch above the 1/4 inch above the sills of the body, the side sills of the body,
right.
Then that's really all I need.
Okay, yeah, because again, I need to know whether I need to raise the bridge or lower the water.
The issue is going to be at the back where we put the motor into it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to cut away a lot of that.
Okay, well that again, that's what I need to know. So for example, I can, for anyone who wants to build like a model kit that goes down the road, we can have this interior, and
Sure.
for
And then
our purposes for Greg, I can actually fabricate a proper interior that would do what needs to be done for your chassis.
Yeah, I mean, we need probably from the center line of the rear wheels about an inch forward. There needs to be nothing that's below the level of the windows. So basically,
so from about right here, eh?
Oh yeah, because you remember, depending on what kind of motor we're going to put in it, and if it's a sidewinder, which it probably would have to be.
Yep.
And there's one option to this whole thing, of course. Now that I think about it.
Sidewinder behind the rear axle.
Exactly. Sidewinder behind the rear axle.
If you're feeling it, man, you do it. Just
Well,
do
how
it.
about this? I'll give you the option for either or. I mean, I can supply both interiors, and you can decide what you want to do.
Well, personally, as I think about it now, if you put if you do a sidewinder behind the rear axle, then you're going to have to side mount the body. So you're going to need that 1/4 of an inch on the sides anyway. So you may well, I would raise the floor of that interior about 1/4 inch if you can.
Yeah.
It probably means losing some of the driver's legs and some of the bottom of the seat.
Right. There's actually lots of room there. If you look, I'm gonna. Sorry, I don't mean to give anybody here we go, whiplash, but you can see how low this is. There's lots of room there.
John, it's 3/4 of an inch from a rear axle line to the sidewinder forward.
The front end of the motor.
Okay, so for example, see, this is where the seat mounts. Yeah, if I just cut that to here, then there's no problem. It'll fit no problem.
Sounds
It's 3/4 of an inch.
It's pretty darn close, Steve. Yeah, take a look. Like that's, hang on, let's do some counting here.
From the center of the axle.
Yeah, 1, 2, okay.
And that's what you need.
Oh, yeah, so it'll be
And that's
about here.
for what kind of motor, Steve? For a normal
Normal,
130?
yeah.
SC 130? Okay.
Piranha slotted,
Yeah, sounds right. Mhm.
slotted
Okay, cool.
pod.
Cool. See, isn't this great? This is truly a group build. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Mhm.
Cool. All right. So that's great. I will fabricate an interior. Again, this is for Leo. And everybody, I think it's gonna look really cool.
It already looks cool.
Sorry. That was the last picture. There you go. That was for Leo. Because he, cool. All right. Now, not to let, of course, we have Frank and Dennis here as well. So I didn't want to think that I was just playing favorites. Hang on a minute. Let me just open
Thank
this
you,
up.
John.
Oh, you're very welcome. There we go. There we go.
Feelings were getting crushed.
Oh, poor baby.
Oh,
What feelings I have left?
never, Frank. Not as long as I.
He has no feelings. He's a
Hey, hey,
Oh.
hey, hey.
Oh,
heartless old bastard.
there we go.
Oh, wow.
So I've cleaned this
I'm
up.
kidding. He's the nicest guy you have ever met.
Exactly. Are you kidding?
Absolutely the nicest guy you've ever met. Is Frank.
Now you're hurting
What
my
did
feelings.
I haven't met you, Greg.
So Frank, how much money does Dennis owe you?
Not money, just parts.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
So
you just told me you didn't need parts.
Well, for that
Okay.
particular build anyway, but
All right. So what do we got?
So as you can see, I've done some puttying work on some of the holes here and cleaned up the front a wee bit. But it's a beautiful casting. It really is
Yeah.
a very, very nice casting.
Mhm.
And you can see here.
so when you're through, it's going to look even better than that, right?
Well, oh my gosh, it's gonna look. It looks great the way it is here. See, there was like one little hole that it was in great shape. I opened these holes up a little more.
Oh,
Again, yeah,
that's
yeah,
nice.
Being really good.
yeah. They're like there were little bits of resin inside, so it was just a matter of opening them up a
Cleaning
wee
them out.
bit.
Yeah. I am getting this one back when you're done with it, right?
Yeah, you want the original? Yeah, for sure. I'll have a mold. I'll make as many as I want.
Because I'm going to build the original. I'm going to build one with that original.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, geez, have I done? I hope I didn't do anything.
No,
that you
it's
wouldn't do, Dennis.
it's looking fantastic.
Okay.
No, it looks great.
Shoot. Okay. Oh.
You
wow.
saved Dennis from having to clean it up.
Oh, well, talking about cleaning up, I'm glad I'm wearing Dtms. I thought I did something wrong.
No. That's great.
Okay. Here we go. So on the underneath, Dennis, as I said, I put some CA to make sure that nothing broke through in the molding
Yeah,
process.
that's fine. Mhm.
And then I opened up. There were these lines in.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are gone.
Good.
As well as I
Great.
trimmed the back. This is really heavy in the back. Do you want this trimmed out at all? Hang on, let me just zoom in here a wee bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like it's a bit of a heavy piece of resin here
Yeah.
in thickness.
If it will save you making a separate mold there or a second mold, because you
No,
probably would want to carve it out before you.
No, it's going to be a two-part mold because, and here's my other question to you, Dennis, is where would you like your body mounts?
Oh, for me personally, I don't want body mounts, but
Oh, okay, then okay, well, that's fine. Because I wanted to put one in the mold for people to at least be able to attach a chassis in some way, shape. or
well,
form.
if you want to do that, then I would suggest you need to put front and rear so that they could put something like a PCS 32 or
There you go.
or something like that underneath it, because that's what a lot of people might use, which would mean two holes at the back, one hole, two mounts at the back, one at the front, in the center.
Right.
But for me
Yeah.
personally, I always mount on the sides, and I always mount
That's
using,
what I do.
using
Yeah,
foam rubber. So I don't need any extra resin in there to mount the body.
Okay,
at
because
all.
the other thing I was thinking about too was to use styrene blocks to like adhere them and not permanently adhere, by the way, just for molding purposes.
Oh yeah, you could do that if you want to.
Yeah. And at the back, because that way people have some breadth to like remove and add, rather than add. It's really easy to remove something rather than to add it. That's what my wife keeps threatening me with.
Hey, Dennis,
so-
Dennis,
Yes, sir.
there actually isn't any room in the back of that car for a PCS. You'd have to cut the two-hole attachment off in the back anyway.
Yeah, you're probably
Yes.
right, because it does
Yeah.
stick out quite a ways behind the
Exactly.
wheels.
Yeah, so that
Mm.
wouldn't work anyway. So I think I would just leave it as is, and whoever gets this body will have to fashion their own
Yeah.
body mount system.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably you could put an HRS or something, a slotted HRS or something under it and mount from the sides too.
Yes.
Okay.
But
That's
even
what I
then,
was
you don't
thinking.
need anything there.
And that way too, the person can either build a brass chassis or get a PCS chassis, but just cut that back tab off.
Yeah.
okay.
They have it.
Yeah, because here's another shot here. You can see how thick this piece of resin is. Eh?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, if you want to thin that down, John, go for it.
Okay, and then
That's
the other
fine.
thing I want to ask about too was, oh, by the way, I opened up these vents.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
wow.
Yeah.
That's
they'll-
cool.
And then you'll see, yeah, so there's sort of a zoom of that from the underside and then from above.
Mhm.
John, you've done this once or twice before, haven't you?
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah.
Oh, God, no, you know what?
He's actually
lucky.
getting quite good at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of these days, you'll be able to sell some of this stuff.
You never
Oh,
know.
maybe.
Hey, you never know. I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Mhm.
But that's the 2G. So it's come
Cool.
along quite a ways.
Nice, thank you.
So, okay, so if you guys don't want blocks, then that makes it a little bit easier. Then
Mhm.
that's fine. But I'm going to cast the interior that you sent, and I'm going to fabricate an interior and do some other things. But I just wanted to show that didn't forget about that. And then there's just one more wee thing.
Question, John.
Yes.
Do you have chaparral inserts that you can mold?
Yeah. I've
Okay.
actually got molds of them. Why? Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
too.
because that would be very nice to go with them. I got
Hey,
John Warren in New Zealand, but they came with it when you're doing it. You might as well have them there.
I have inserts as well, and I mean, you could always use slotted inserts too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. I actually the inserts that I really like are the ones from Revell in the 60s. I thought looked really good.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
and I've already got molds of those, so I can make as many of those as you like.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, no worries. So the last little project, and again, the great thing about having 3 projects like this is that as something's curing, you've got something else to do. Whoop. Sorry. Is that okay?
I think somebody might be trying to ask or a question, but their connection is terrible.
Oh,
That's Ray.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you okay, Ray?
You're probably gonna have to text it in the chat.
Yeah, Ray, go ahead and put what your question is in the chat because your connection is pretty bad. So we'll keep an eye out for his comment in the chat. John, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Again, the last wee bit here is I'm finishing off the RSK, and again, I used a guide coat on the rear, and as you can see, it's shaped out really quite nicely. It's just got that lovely bottleneck or Coke bottle sort of shape to it. It's not overt. Sorry, if I pat myself on the back any harder, I'll break a rib. Sorry. And that's the rear. So I covered all this up. The only thing I have to do now is just make some screen for the back.
What's the make of that body?
Oh, that was originally the Strombecker, which is absolutely beautiful and bang
Yes.
on
Okay.
scale, but the rear wheel openings were horrid. So I
Right.
took
I
one of my
remember.
356s and spliced on proper sort of, rear fenders. And and this is the great thing about the guide coat. You can see like the layers of putty and resin. And isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's just going to disappear once you get a coat on that. And
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, actually, I'm going to mold it. Make the mold, and then it's all. It's
oh yeah,
all
you
ready to go.
don't even need to paint it if you're just going to mold it. So yeah.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I can't remember, John, did you compare the size of the Strombecker to a Rusket, or what was that body that you did that you compared it to?
Oh, I compared. I was just showing the difference in the wheel openings between a stock Strombecker, and I'll show you the picture. if you
That's
like.
right. That's right.
And,
Yeah, 'cause
and what I was trying to do.
I
Yeah.
happen to have a couple of the Rusket bodies from what, 63, 64, and they are so tiny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and it was a tiny car. It was really
It
quite a tiny
was, but for a slot car, they're so tiny. The Strombecker, I think, is a little bit bigger. So
Yeah, the Strombeckers are a wee bit bigger, but you know, they were all, every real RSK were different, every one of them, because they're all handmade. Yeah. So, and then I just wanted to show I was starting to work on the headlight bucket. So just from a styrene tube, and I haven't completed it yet, but I just thought I'd show that.
oh, neat. Yeah, that's gonna look sharp.
Really cool. Now I wanted to build an interior, but I thought, you know, that Porsche 356 interior that I have,
Right?
I thought, well, let's see if it fits. And
Lo and behold.
son of a fish stick, it works.
Okay.
Great.
So how okay, with that underneath there and with no room in the back, what kind of motor and drive system are you going to use? Because I know you.
Just like the 356, 030 motor and a Sidewinder right behind it.
Yeah.
Yep.
My mistake when I built the 356 I got from you is I used a Scalectric's regular size motor, and I had a hard time fitting it. So
Right. And the great thing about the 030, like if you use an 030, even from like a 143rd Go, like Carrera, I mean, there's a lot of power, and it's like a Porsche.
You
Very
just gave
light.
me, that's a great idea, because you can get Carrera Goes for $10 sometimes, and that way you're getting your whole drivetrain, motor,
yep,
axles, everything.
Yeah. Actually,
And then you could take that little motor and turn it on its side and put it behind the axle.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It actually wasn't done right in the first place. Why make it? Why make it wrong again? It's supposed to be in front of the rear axle.
Actually, yeah, the RSKs were mid-engine, weren't they?
That's right. The RSKs were correct. The 356 was not. No, that's right.
The RSKs are a mid-engine car. That's correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
I almost did that with the 356 that I got from you. I'm going to get another one from you, and I think I'm going to do that.
Okay, cool.
Because then it's like a real Porsche.
It's like a real Porsche. Yeah, exactly. so that's it, folks. Sorry, I didn't mean to take up too much time, but those are all.
You did.
Yeah, it's all right, John.
Thanks for sharing, John.
That was great.
I saw
excellent news.
Yes.
Let's give Ray another chance. Ray, are you still there? Did you have a question or comment for John? I think he's gone, actually. I don't see him in the list anymore.
Okay. And if you want a close-up, Greg, I did bring it up from the workshop if you want to see what it looks like.
No, the pictures you showed were pretty good, so I'm satisfied.
I do have the door handles here, which are just.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me smile at you here.
Okay. I don't know if you can see the door handles there.
Oh, yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And those are from the kit, from the model kit?
Yeah. And my daughter actually taught me how to actually cast them into the body, which is really something.
I was just going to ask you, how'd you glue those on there?
Well, that's the great thing about casting them in. Like your 356, the handles were cast in, right?
Right.
He showed me how to do that. What you do is you use a little bit of clay and you make a little bit of a plug, and then you put this little line on the bottom and the top. So when it casts, you just pop it right out, and there's your door handle.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah, I tell you.
I saw Big Den's hand pop up during your thing. Big Den, did you have a question or comment for John, or you got something you want to share? Okay, so we'll do Dewan first, and then we'll get to Big Den. What do you got today for us, Dewan?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because it's saying my resources are pretty low. I didn't know if I was coming in choppy or not.
Okay, well, don't try to share a video then.
I was going to share a photo.
That should be fine.
I am waiting for things to happen. I started building up some of my scenery concepts, and I know that after one of the chats, you kind of showed me some of the free stuff on the Carrera site, and then I was looking at some of the other stuff that was on eBay and things like that. I ran across one. I figured I'd just go ahead and try it out for like $15, between 15 and 20 bucks. You know, you can't lose much out of it, and I got I think it's called Innovation Concepts. You probably see them all the time on there. But I finally put together a couple of their kits, and after that, I went and bought about half a dozen more. Let me share. I think I have it open right now. See if it comes up. Is it showing?
Fire department.
Yes,
Yeah,
looks
okay.
great.
Yeah,
Okay,
nice.
so this is for $15. You know, you really
Nice.
can't go wrong.
Yeah, the first $15 is the gateway drug.
And the shipping is free. You know, so you can't beat that. So yeah.
And the benefit of that is it takes you a couple hours to build it, and you're off the streets and out of trouble.
It does. It's made out of some very good construction cardboard paper that's real shiny. It has some unique features that it gives you, like what they call illusion rooms. That you see those little open doors on the side. If you look, you can basically look in those rooms, look in the doors, and you'll see some illusions of things on the interior that makes it look like it's occupied.
Oh, how cool!
So yeah, that's the fire department. This is another little hut. The hut came with two kits, two houses as part of the kit for like $15. So that's the second house. Hey, you see
nice.
that? If you look inside, I think you can see inside there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tools.
it's like a tool
Yeah,
shed.
yeah. So that's what it does.
So cool.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, and I was thinking about getting the ones that the Carrera has, but I'll be printing on my paper and cutting it out. And this was all templated out, and the instructions were there. They're very straightforward. It's pretty tedious. It takes you, they estimate 2.5 hours per kit, but I'm probably on the 4 to 5 hour range. I think I've been a little pretty optimistic. Well,
once you get a few more under your belt, maybe it'll be a 2 hour.
Yeah. You see
It's worth it to do it well.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Depending on how much he has under his belt, it might take him 6 or 7 hours. I knew you were thinking it, John. I just had to say it.
He beat you to the pun.
Does it have like, is it hinged or is that part of the cardboard or?
It's just a cardboard. You store it. You just simply store it and fold it back.
Oh wow!
Yes. So
That's so cool.
I haven't pinned down the steps, so you see, I'm just now noticing that it's out of order, so I moved a little bit. So that's
well, those things they're never perfectly aligned in real life anyway.
Well, not that far on the line, no. But and this is an old kit that I had. This is one of the laser wood burn kits.
Oh yeah,
so,
magnetic racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of their kits that I put together.
Nice.
But that's that's a $50 kit versus a $15 kit, So.
A little bit sturdier. The magnetic racing ones are a little bit sturdier, being that they're laser cut wood as opposed to cardstock. But you don't have to paint the cardstock ones. So
yeah, this is a kit that I thought I was going to have ready for our presentation today, and I ran out of gas last night, so it's just sitting here waiting for me to finish up.
Yeah, but that's a good shot to share because you're kind of
like
showing
an
people
apartment block. Yeah,
exactly. So this is how it is, and it's it's very sizable. This is going to be about almost 9-10 inches high.
Yeah,
cool. And then I have like I said, I bought another half a dozen kits after that.
So if you were really ambitious, you could build an interior and use that as the outside walls.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, and then then put people in and light it. Sorry,
this does allow that. This does allow those type of things. And this one actually has floors. You're gonna have different levels of floors, and you can open up and see different things from different.
So it comes with the floors too.
Well, this one does. Yes, this one has a second level floor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you'll have a window open, and you'll be able to see the little illusion rooms inside from that perspective. This one again, $19. And if you order 4 of them, I think it's like a $15, $20 discount. So
you couldn't buy the paper for that.
That's what I said. And it's the instructions are there, and this is you see that. And I thought it was going to really be off scale wise because they have 1/43rd, they have 1/64th, and they have 1/32. And I really thought they were just trying to push the 1/43rd as 1/32, but these are true 1/32 scale. If you saw that first picture, go back to it, you can see that the cars, those are the 1/32 cars on that fire station. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Those are real 132 size cars, and the parking lanes are really 130. So, and I have the pit garage. I have, and then I'm going to be taking some of the ones with the flat roofs. I'm going to be using those and turning into different images than what they originally conceived, because my goal is to have some personalized things around my.
Well, therein lies your stately Wayne Manor.
Yeah,
Wayne Manor.
So yeah, that's the concept. So there we go.
Can you put the link to where you got them from in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's on eBay, and you'll be able to see them there. But I'll put it there. I did have another link I was going to put in the chat too. It was it was a little video that I found on one of the groups, and someone created a little, I want to say more than just a song. What do you call those video songs, whatever you call those things? Yeah, about slot car racing. So I'll put that link in there. I'm not going to try to play it here because my resources are low, but I'll put that link in there. You can just kind of get a tickle off of that.
Yeah, any link you want to share to those products, the paper printed building products and videos and stuff, I'll copy it into the video description on YouTube. So I already put a link to the Carrera for Fun, the German site that you kind of mentioned.
I couldn't read German. That's why
and Google Translate usually does a pretty decent job, but yeah, it can be a challenge to do those. Yeah. And then you got to print it.
And then to print it on my own paper, and I was going to have the thick stock that had, and for $15, I mean, it was just a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, those are great. What you got there and what you showed.
Very nice.
I had one question. I haven't done these myself. Do you have to cut them all out with an X-Acto knife, or are they?
X-Acto knife, straight edge. You saw the equipment that I had there. They say you can use scissors, but an X-Acto knife with a straight edge is far better.
Yeah,
and
so they weren't die cut for you. They're just printed and you cut them all out. Okay.
That's correct. So
Greg's going to have to wear those steel gloves so you all his fingers.
Yeah.
I've got pretty good experience with that kind of stuff. I took architecture, and so you always had to build models of your design. So I got plenty of experience with a straight edge and an X-Acto knife. But for everybody else out there,
I'm talking about myself.
Okay, so Frank will need the anti-cut gloves.
There was one other thing that I was gonna bring up to the group. I did also, let me see if I can do that. Stop my share. Already stopped the share. There was another item that I purchased. Polar. It was a model kit, and I want to put a chassis under it. Let's see if I can share that. Just a quick like. I guess it doesn't. Yeah, there it goes.
Is it a Batman car?
Nope.
Oh, there we go. Speed Racer.
Well, yeah. So I already have the Batman cars. I have enough of those. But I did say that I was building up some gifts that I'm going to be sending out to a lot of people. And I have a good associate of mine who's been a fanatic speed racer fan and this and that. So he doesn't know it yet. I'm sure he's not following this chat, but I'm gonna get set up a track and everything for him. And I couldn't find a speed racer Mach 5 slot car. I know they used to exist, and especially 132, but I couldn't find them anywhere. So I just went ahead and bought this model kit, and I'm going to try to take my first shot at doing some scratch building and putting a chassis under it and putting some things like that. So I might need some assistance. It was 125th scale. I was hoping I'd get a 132, but I couldn't find anything with 132 that wasn't die cast. And then my next question is, I need a matching car to go with this, and I'm clueless as to what the heck would match up to
a Racer X, maybe. There's no Racer X. There's no Racer X model kits.
I don't know. I didn't know what to search for because I haven't followed speed racers since I was 10 years old.
I'm not a speed racer guy either, but I know Racer X is his nemesis. So maybe search for Racer X.
That'd be great. That would be great. So okay. And then I know I'm going down to Electric Dreams a couple times between now and the time that they race, and I was planning on trying to purchase and get everything I need from there. So I was gonna maybe lean on Dennis's advice on what to put underneath this, or try to see if I can even hollow it out to even put something under it or not.
Oh, I'm sure we can put something under it.
Okay, that's good to know.
If I were you, I would bring the body with you so that we can actually do some fitting and matching right there in the store.
I'm supposed to have it Friday, according to this thing.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe
Well, I know you're only there on
one of
Thursday.
those H&R brass chassis kits would fit underneath there.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was going to get my first shot at putting together something like that. That's what's I have a NASCAR 124 scale NASCAR that has that. That I got for me so that's what we'll try that. And again, try to find a little matching car to go with it. So I'm going to stock him with his little Speed Racer set using Revell's, track and updated cars, and do a few other people similar types of things like that. These are going to be surprises for Christmas for them.
That's pretty awesome. Definitely keep us up to date on that project.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Anything else today, Dewan?
Nah, that's it for me.
All done. All right, Big Dan, it is your turn, sir.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, and October, depending on where you might be. I've got it's a bit of screen shares. Didn't make it last week. I had plenty of appointments during the day, so I didn't. I took some sleep instead. But I did watch it on Catch Up TV or Catch Up YouTube or whatever.
But you woke up nice and early for this one.
yeah. Don't remind me. So my first screen share will be something for everybody. Well, something for Dennis and something for Greg in this one. So I'll start off. And there we are. We've got blue,
blue and yellow,
and we've got a single seat Can-Am, which is one of Dennis's likes. He's had he's let us know about.
Looks pretty cool.
And it's sponsored by a Canadian company. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I threw that. I knew it was Can-Am, and I found a little sticker, John, so I thought someone might spot that. I've been racing or involved with slot cars off and on since 1961, and you might find this hard to believe, but this is the first spray job I've ever done on a car.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, the genie is out of the rattle can, and I'll be going mad. So,
did you spray all the stripes as well?
Oh yeah, well, that's pretty clever. No, I'm not going to claim credit for that, Dennis. The only thing I sprayed was actually the basic blue color and the gunmetal or whatever of the rear wing. So moving to the next shot.
Cool looking car.
That's it. Yeah, it's. I think it was I'm not sure whether it was the Elfin MR8, one of the variations of the Elfin MR8. I've used a bit of poetic license in the placement of the rear wing, but then again, the single seat Can-Am was pretty, free and easy anyway. What people did.
And was that a 3D printed body?
It's a resin. No, it's a resin body made by one of the guys in Hobart.
Okay.
That's now. The side stickers, the wings out of it. We used to have like a kids' craft type book called Track Stars down here, and they had stickers that the kids could place out, cut out of a master sheet, then place at certain points throughout the book that accompanied. It was about a 20-page book. So fortunately, there was quite a few different legitimate, racing sponsors and things. The gold 8s were off just something from a craft shop that were on a sheet of decals and numbers. A couple of the other things, those are sideways wheels that came off something. Okay, so next one.
By the looks of it.
Yeah, that's just a bit better picture. So it actually, believe it looks a little bit better in real life than what it does in the picture. So that's we're talking about HRS chassis.
No brag, just fact.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and I'll tell you about the stripes in a shot or two to come. this was an HRS chassis. The guys in Hobart all bought an HRS chassis with some form of slotted motor many years ago, and I was a late comer to the group. So basically, this is a 17,000 baby Raptor or baby King or baby Raptor, I think that's sideways call it. The next couple of shots, have a look at what happened to my tyres. I raced it on Tuesday night, our time, and the tyres really cut up rough. And I don't know whether I just hadn't prepared them well, but the other car I raced on the night, I managed to get under 6 seconds for a lap. I didn't get this thing under 7 seconds, and they were in the same motor, and it was just had no go, and it just jutted all over the place. That's even the front tyres. They were clear coated all the way around, and you can see that part of those is even cut up rough.
What kind of track was it?
Phil Calfull's wood track, with the
what kind of paint?
Oh, it's not Ferrador, but it's just a grey sort of paint. I don't know exactly what it is, Dennis.
And very abrasive or not?
Well, yeah, sometimes you can see tyres really scrub in well, but these ones scrubbed in badly. Next picture, now you can see where I got the decals from.
There you go.
I bought this sheet of decals, I reckon, more than 20 years ago, and I've cut bits and pieces, numbers out of it over the years for various cars, going way back to 24 scale flexi cars and things. And the ones I've used on the side are, the parts of, I think, is it this? Must have been this one here, I think. Yeah, these two here.
Probably.
Now, the interesting thing here, I don't think Gaz is on this morning, but on our local, Australia, New Zealand forum, Gazza often writes for a little topic called eBay can be such an entertaining place. Well, here's one of the local firms advertising this set for $12.99. If I move to the next slide, there's the eBay. Someone wanting $99 for it. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy all the stock from this guy at $12.99, then flog it off on eBay at $99. So
no, flog it at 98.
Oh, yeah, and the 6 available. I reckon he might have still had 6 available for ages. It would have to be, yeah. And last of the that's this is for Henry. Now this is the first Ninko car I ever owned. It was the yellow and white colours, the Yannick Delmas car. It's still got Yannick's name on the back there, or the Delmas anyway. And I had it spray painted by a friend probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I just finally decided to do something with it. It's not finished yet, but these turtle wax signs and numbers came out of those Trackstars kids books. So I just thought that was a little bit different. There's another view of it, back view. So it's pretty much still the standard Ninko running gear and everything under it. Oh, hang on, I just need something else. I'll just go back to my folder and get another picture for Dennis. Oh, this was the one. I must have. Can you see that one? Yeah, just a very small picture of a black.
It's just pure black on my end.
Yeah, you're gonna have to stop and reshare.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Where is it? Right. And I'll share that one. No, that's not it. Oh, come on.
Now we see Dennis.
now we're saying.
Yeah, right. He's been screenshotting me while I've been sitting here talking or something.
Yeah, we see your folder now.
Yeah, I thought I'd click the other one up, but this is what given me that's what's annoying me. Put it up there. Oh, I give up. No, I'll show you. I'll show you another day. Hang on. Oh, sorry, here it is.
Here we go. Give it the old college try.
Now can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
You can probably zoom in a little bit if you want.
Yeah, okay. Where's it?
The little magnifier there to the left.
I thought I just hit the plus key, but it didn't work. Yeah, this was another one of the weird single seat Can-Am cars. I think it was called the VSE Chevron or something like that. So the driver sat over here on a little pontoon on one side,
and
the engine
was
hung
on
out
the pontoon on the other side. Yeah, and it was kind of flat, like an inverted tunnel hull.
Yeah, like a catamaran sort of thing.
Yeah.
I said to the guy who raced it last night, and his didn't look quite as good as this. It still had lots of dust on it. He described it as his barn find because it still had dust over it where he found it under his track or something like that. So, I said, it reminded me of the was it the P82 twin Mustang or something like that? You know, that had two fuselages. Yeah. Okay, so I'll stop sharing and someone else can jump in.
Awesome. Good stuff, Dan. Thanks for sharing. And Mr. Rose, looks like you are ready to go. Go ahead and share what you got.
Okay, this is just a follow-up on what Dewan had.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I've purchased a couple of these directly from their website as opposed to eBay, and they've got a ton of stuff. And I got a couple of the HO that I'm going to be building here shortly, but they have different scales and they just have all kinds of stuff.
Wow. And I think I saw Dewan put a link into the chat, right?
Yeah, I'll do that. Some of it's not related to racing, but a lot of it is.
Yeah.
And they have I've got this one in HO scale, and it has an interior. It actually has the lifts with like a popsicle stick that you put the piece of cardboard on, and then you could have it, coming out of the ground as a lift. So the interior is all three-dimensional. So it's really cool stuff. It is not challenging. It's just tedious to build because there's so many parts to it. But just wanted to share that. I'll put that in the comments.
Yeah. Awesome. So now people know what that link is going to bring them to. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Sir. And I did see some new names. I'm not going to call them out, but if you're new to this chat and you would like to share your slot history, as we used to do back in the early days of the Zoom chat, go ahead and hit your electronic hand raise button, and I'll call on you and you can tell us about yourself. Otherwise, we'll keep chatting about various slot car things. I did kind of offer a topic earlier, but before we get to that possible thing, did anybody have any Club Corner they wanted to share? Past events, future events, recent events, funny stories, car preparation, except for Wayne. All right, Nick and Dennis, I see both of you. Go ahead, Nick, and then we'll get Dennis.
Just quickly, I was just going to say congratulations to everybody in the show and tell. Absolutely nobody reached anywhere near 53 minutes and 29 seconds. Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
All I can say, Nick, is it wasn't easy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll try to move faster.
Wasn't even half done.
Yeah.
What was that, Brian?
Dig.
I'll leave it there.
I think
he wasn't even half finished. He was moving to a second car.
He was still getting ready to go on more. Yeah. But,
actually, I think he's still presenting. He just refuses to join us today.
He didn't realize he was disconnected. All right, enough digging on Wayne. What do you got today, Dennis?
Oh, I was just going to say that on Club Corner, that Saturday night at Electric Dreams, there will be a big Halloween party, which part of the attraction at the Halloween party is going to be a 1-hour endurance race for Revo slot cars. Marco has set up 6 teams of what he calls professional drivers, but since I'm one of them, I don't think that it's actually completely true.
Is Frank one of them?
I would have been, but I have to go to a family Halloween party.
Oh man.
Anyway, so there are 6 teams of 2 drivers per team. We're going to run 1 hour. So we're going to each run 5 minutes on each lane, 10 minutes per lane. over the 6-lane track. But that's not all that's happening. That race will run 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock or round about there. The whole place opens up at 5, and there's a lot of other activities and free racing and a costume contest and all of that. So anybody who's in the LA area who wants to come around, put that on your calendar.
Looks like Dewan is getting ready to go. He's putting that on his calendar.
Good for him.
All right,
What are
thank
you
you for
going
that.
as, Dennis?
Say again?
What are you going to dress up
going
as?
Dennis?
Oh, I hadn't thought about dressing up, but I suppose I could. Yeah.
I'm thinking vampire.
I could dress up as a professional slot car racer. I mean, that would be something. Right? Nobody would recognize me then.
Well, it would be interesting to see how many people go as a bottle of wintergreen.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking of that, we actually did that at one stage years back at Buena Park for one event. We had been talking about the fact that back in the day, in the 60s, in the time of Team Rusket, the Team Rusket drivers arrived always at the raceway in collar and tie and a light blue jacket, a light blue blazer. And that's how they raced, with a tie and a blazer. And so we actually got together, a couple of us at Buena Park, and decided we were going to do the same thing. So I actually dug out a green blazer that I have, which is my South African national sporting colors blazer that I got for radio control racing, for representing the country at a couple of world championships. And so I wore that, my Springbok blazer with a Springbok tie and a white shirt.
Dig it out again, Dennis. I'm sure it'll fit.
Yeah, well, there's certain things that we get under our belts every now and then that might just no, but it does still fit. I know that.
That's below the belt.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anyway, so yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that, Dennis. I'm sure there's going to be some people in the area swinging by, if not only Dewan, but definitely Dewan. All right. And what about you, Frank? What's happening?
Well, I have to tout my own horn, as it says. I raced at Big Lou's Toys and Collectibles last Wednesday night to defend my non-mag title at that raceway. It's mainly a magnet race place, but they have one class of non-magnet, and this is the second time I've won.
Nice.
Beat all those non-magnet guys.
It's a different kind of racing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Definitely. And I was actually there last Wednesday trying to get on, but a certain gentleman, I think, never mind, somebody already said that.
All right. Well, good for you for winning the non-mag stuff over there.
Yeah, I don't win whole heat. I mean, I win a heat now and again, but not always the whole race. So
well, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while. All right.
Thank you. You're right.
All right. What's happening with your corner of the world, Big Den?
Just before we get going, a couple of comments on things that have come up a little bit earlier. That we're just talking about our single seat Can-Am race series. That this year may be well be the last year we run it, because some of the bodies are getting a bit tatty after 7 or 8 years, and the guy who molded them originally doesn't want to mold anymore. The other thing, Mike was talking about his Pagani earlier, and I saw a video clip of Lewis Hamilton's driving his Pagani out of an airport, and that was quite entertaining. And another comment about Mike and his mirrors about coming up. Magnetic Mike, you can't come off if you got magnet track, can you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. And they come off harder and more damaging.
Cars to prove it.
Oh, okay, right. And the other thing too, for Dewan was talking about Speed Racer. I seem to remember there's a Scale Extra catalogue in the early 80s that had a comic strip in it called Speed Race, The Adventures of Speed Racer, around about 88 or 81. So I'll see if I can dig that out, and that might have some ideas you can get for having the alter ego of Speed Racer when you to go with your white car that you've bought. Now I'll see if I've got this screen share working. Oh, give me a break. Must be down here somewhere. I've got the picture up. Okay, so back here. Screen share. No idea where it's gone now.
Perhaps it's down under.
Oh, John, you had your Wheaties today.
Yeah, I'll just see. This is really annoying me because I've got the picture up. I'll just click.
I was gonna say, I know you know how it works. Now we're looking at your folder.
How's that?
We're seeing your folder of files.
Oh, give me a break. Okay.
Kitkat bar. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, interesting. You're talking about Kitkat, Frank. One of we've got one of the guys here used to have perennial brakes on his track, and we've got a delicacy down here called a Kitkat. So we renamed his raceway as Kitkat Raceway. You know, have a break, and it was the slogan of the candy bar. So that didn't go down too well for a start, and
yeah, he probably didn't like that much.
Yeah, I've got this folder up.
Okay, I take no offense to that whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I know you know how to screen share, Big Ben, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I just can't work out. I just can't work out why it's not.
You're getting close to the 53 minutes, man.
You stole the line from me, John.
Yeah. Well, I was. Oh, here it is.
There it is.
Wayne Down Under.
Is that it?
Yes, North Tasmanian Slot Car Club, Grumpy Garage.
Yeah. Okay, so I did put that little bit in as a bit of a dig at someone who's been on previously to say that no advanced geometric or trigonometry techniques were used and no triangles were harmed or modified. So, in the making of this production.
Who were you referring to?
Okay, so race one was our Group 5 sideways cars, and we had an extra 2 entrants from an out-of-town raceway, so 10 in all this last Saturday, and that's just another look at the field. There's the results.
Big Dan, sorry,
here you go, 4th place.
Wow,
Yeah.
good. Sorry to interrupt, Dan, but that car in front with the red and gold, it looked like an Alan Mann kind of livery. It looks really cool.
It's a JPS Lotus tribute livery of the.
Okay, it's really nice.
Zach Speed Capri, I think it is. With the similar to the Mustang, you know, with the similar to the Mustang with the similar body style. Some of these cars have actually got partly brass chassis, so I thought I did all right to finish 4th in that group. Next up was our Group C, predominantly, I think, all slotted cars. Again, one of these cars had a great slab of that one. It was an out of town. Had a great slab of brass underneath it. So that was me in the Leighton House car in the middle of the pack there. That shot is just the guy who won it. Just documentary evidence that he beat his son yet again. So one or other of them always gets we take a special picture if the son beats dad or dad beats son. So
yep.
And the results there. There's dad and son pretty close there at the top. But, then our last class was our slotted DTMs. Again, this is Mark who won the Group 5 race, also won this one with a partly brass chassis under his Calibra there.
What is a partly brass chassis?
Well, they put a slab of brass underneath the chassis, Frank. And that's the way they race out at this raceway that's about 70 k's or 45 miles away from where I live. I don't go out there because the track's situated in an upstairs room, loft of a shed, and it's quite I don't handle stairs all that well. So and when you get up there, there's nowhere for me to sit down, which is what I like to do. Getting old and crusty, and the Ravager.
Hey, careful, I resemble that remark.
The Ravager setting in. Yeah.
So they just glue the brass to the bottom of a plastic chassis?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. In a lot of cases, some of them actually replace the brass chassis, replace the plastic chassis completely with a brass chassis. But that is the formula they use out there. And some of our guys race at both venues. So there's a mixture of rules. You just that's me in the silver car there. Yeah. It's the Ellen Law car, so I'm entitled to drive like a girl. And
so you were just off the podium again there, Big Dan.
Yeah, but not too bad. Yeah, and I think that's about it for.
That reminded me on my past club on Monday race, a guy who's just started racing with us. His son came to visit him, who he has not seen in many years. And after they spent, the previous week doing all kinds of sightseeing and bonding and whatnot, he brought his son to the race on Monday. And, he's a, 20, early 20s kid, primarily video gamer. And it was basically his first time ever, pulling the trigger on a slot car. And, he was getting thrown in the deep end with, non-magnet racing on a wood track with, Mr. Slot Car, Porsches and stuff like that. And he started picking it up pretty quick. And there was that time during the evening where he had bested his dad in one of the competitions, and he was like, "Yeah, I beat you." He's like, "Yep, I'm not gonna hear that. Or I'm gonna hear that for the rest of the ride home tonight." Yeah. So that's always good fun when they have that kind of fun bonding experience. Jim, what's happening in your neck of the woods?
Not a heck of a lot, unfortunately. We're going through some growing pains in writing rules for a couple of clubs. So I just thought I'd show you a car that I'm going to be racing this weekend.
Ooh, wow.
18th scale RC car.
Oh my goodness.
And one of the reasons I got into 32nd scale is the realism. And obviously everybody knows that you take a body off, slot cars don't look real, but the bodies are great. This actually looks real. When you pull everything off, the chassis is actually modeled after a real sprint car.
Nice.
And so they're fun. I just thought I'd bring that up since Dennis mentioned RC cars, because that's kind of where I got started and been doing that for a long time.
All right. Well, that's a pretty cool
lap mains.
That's very cool. Dennis, what's happening for you?
All right. Two things. Firstly, let me share the screen quickly while we were talking about RC cars. That was the getup.
Oh, very nice.
All right. And this was my other buddy who now lives in Oregon, and this was him qualifying. He also had his shirt and tie and the shades, which made him look really, Men in Black style. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It really was. Okay, and then I was just going to show somebody. We're talking about slotted cars with brass pans. This one comes from a guy in Australia by the name of Cameron Nielsen. Who he has a little company called Slotworks, WERX, and what he makes is it's an HRS chassis with a pre-cut brass pan that attaches to it, and then one of those little rattling H plates on top, so that the body mounts on the H plate. This particular one is one of his vacuum formed Super V8 Aussie V8 cars, but I'm pretty sure you could mount that on you could put a regular slotted chassis on there, slotted body on there. I just thought I'd let you know after Big Dan was talking about brass pieces on slotted chassis. That's one way to do it.
All right.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've seen those. There's a guy that races a digital track that ships Slotworks cars, and they have digital races with those cars. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty nice cars, actually. They work pretty well.
Dennis, I thought you would talk about the Bula Bash.
Oh, yeah, I could talk about the Bula Bash. That was a slot car race last weekend at the local commercial raceway. It's the last of the 4 big 124th scale retro races that we have in a year. and it's a little different to most in that the first thing we run on the Saturday morning is a 3-hour endurance race for retro stock cars or retro NASCARs. So everybody builds some kind of a 4.5-inch wheelbase NASCAR, and then we run 3 hours. Well, it's 3 hours and 12 minutes actually, because it's like 12 minutes on a lane of all 8 lanes.
Do you have one handy to show us?
I could find it.
Okay.
It was a good run. The guys who won it going away. The Electric Dreams team was Marco Carvalho, who's the manager there, and Eddie Shora, who's been on these chats before, and myself, the three of us. We managed to I suppose, grab some level of decency by the end by coming in fourth. We were right down in 8th at one stage very early on. We had a bit of motor trouble. We actually used 3 motors in the 3 hours. But in general, it was fun. And then that's followed by retro Formula Ones on the Saturday afternoon and retro Can-Ams on the Sunday. I didn't run the Can-Ams because the Saturday and the Friday night racing before that and the Thursday night racing before that was more than I could handle to go back on Sunday.
It was at Piranha Raceway in Whittier.
Yeah, Piranha Raceway in Whittier. Yeah, it was good fun though. Had guys in from Arizona as well, so it was quite a good crowd.
I mean, as long as you're having fun, it's good.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not so much fun to. In the retro F1, I qualified second, which was for me pretty good, and I was lying second, third, about halfway through the third heat, and car came off and hit the barrier and punched the center of a rear axle ball bearing right out. And so basically that was the end of me for the rest of the race. But it happens.
That definitely happens.
Anyway,
so let me look at my screen here. I
go find that car.
Yeah, if you find it, definitely show it to us here. So I kind of mentioned a couple ideas that I had for kind of an interactive design thing earlier. Did you guys want to do an interactive design of a 3D printable slot car chassis, or would you rather do a track design? John, go ahead.
Oh, what about our new folks? Did they not want to introduce themselves then?
I didn't see anybody pop up their hand. I was going to ask again, but I wasn't sure I would. Dennis, go ahead and show off your car real quick before Dennis. If you're new to the chat and you want to share your personal slot history, tap your screen, tap more, or tap reactions, and then raise your virtual hand, and I'll call on you and you can share. Don't have to have a camera, but you will have to have at least a microphone. If not, that's cool. Just enjoy and be present. That's also cool. Dennis, go ahead. Show us off that car some.
Okay, so this is the type of car that we were running. It's a very generic COT NASCAR body. This particular one is the one that I ran last year. This is the kind of chassis that's underneath it. An angle winder. I've taken the bits and pieces out of it already. Very, very little movement on the car. The body is actually mounted straight onto these side pieces, and everything just flexes. There's a little bit of movement back here in these little hinges on either side of the motor box, and that's about it. Because on those big, wide bank tracks, you don't need a lot of body movement. So
Lexan, or is that molded?
Say again?
Is that Lexan?
Yeah, no, it's a Lexan body.
Okay.
And what motor is running those?
We run the JK Hawk Retro motor, which is a FK130 Can. The same motors we run in the Can-Am cars and so on. They are about a 50,000 RPM motor. We gear them about 3-to-1 on these cars with 13/16 tires. So these cars will run that 150 foot or 155 foot track in anywhere between 3.8 and 4.1 seconds.
With drivers like you, then.
Yeah, the 4.1 seconds with drivers like me. Yeah.
I mean,
It
they're
looks
still
like
pretty
it looks
fast.
like it was sponsored by that very old cologne that everyone used to buy for their dad for Christmas.
The Old Spice. No, this says old school on the
Yeah,
front.
exactly. Old school.
Old school, not old spice.
All right.
It's always nice to see something we don't normally see, you know, and that kind of gives me the, you know, reminds me to encourage people who may be watching who don't necessarily do what a lot of us do as far as how we enjoy the slot car hobby. So if you're an HO guy, if you're a speed craze moron, if you're a drag racer, if you're whatever you are, come and share your side of the hobby with us and with the world by joining the chat and talking about things that you do or events that you participate in or whatever, however you enjoy however you enjoy the slot car hobby. All are welcome. Just because a lot of us are, wood track racers or 132nd or whatever the case may be, don't feel that you're not welcome and that we don't want to hear how you enjoy the hobby. We all want to hear about it, even if we don't participate in it. It's always fun and interesting to hear.
You just gave Dennis a good idea for a costume on Saturday.
What's that now?
Something about drag?
All right, so let's go back to the suggested topic. So I saw enthusiasm on the designing a 3D printable chassis. Let's go ahead and do that, and maybe we'll tackle the track design thing some other time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and since I'm not going to be reading the chat, you're going to have to speak things to me. But what you should see here is my CAD program. This is Fusion 360. You can get a license to use Fusion 360 as a student, as a small business person, hobbyist, for basically free. Some of the features are limited in the free license, but you can still do pretty much everything that I do. So before I even get into numbers, I'll just kind of give you the basics of how my CAD process works. So here we see just a blank screen. So the first thing that I do is I create a sketch, and generally I choose the flat plane. Especially if I'm doing a chassis, I'll choose the flat plane for my sketch. So there's my flat plane blank sketch, and I look at the sketch. So now I'm looking at two-dimensional right now. And since it's a chassis, I'm going to start with a rectangle. So I hit the R button on my keyboard because that's the shortcut for rectangle. And I like things to be kind of hooked to the center point of the sketch. So I'm going to do a center rectangle. So I'm going to click the center point of the rectangle. And now I can make a rectangle of whatever shape and size we want. So now this could be the rectangle that defines the entire chassis, or it could be the rectangle that defines the motor pod. Should we design a solid chassis or a potted chassis?
Potted chassis.
Potted chassis. So does anybody know the dimensions of a slotted pod? Feel free to whip out calipers. I'm going to go ahead and throw in some numbers here. So I'm thinking it's probably about 100 millimeters.
Yeah, it's not a pure rectangle. That's the only problem.
40 millimeters. Yeah. I mean, all of these numbers can be changed later. This is, I forget what the word is, but parametric, I think, is the word. So I can go back in and change these numbers, and it'll basically perpetuate those changes throughout the entire model process. So I can
the inline pod is 24.3 millimeters
wide.
Yep.
And then what's the length of it?
And it is
58.
The rectangle itself is 57.23.
Okay, so we'll give it 58. Thanks, Steve. And we'll go ahead and up, since basically I'm making the hole for the pod, I'm going to up the width to 25. Whoop. Let me change, I accidentally clicked that, so we're going to double click that, change that to 25. So it's basically 0.7 millimeters wider, and then point however millimeters longer. So this is the hole for the pod. So now I'm going to create a rectangle for the chassis itself, and I hit a wrong button. So rectangle, and I'm just going to put this out in the open because it doesn't matter. because then we're going to define the size of that rectangle. So what is your typical chassis width for an entire chassis?
55 or so.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and give that 55 millimeters. And then what kind of length do we want to go, including, this is going to be including the wheelbase, you know, back wheels and front wheels. How long should that be? 100?
105 maybe.
105? Okay, good enough. So obviously that's in the wrong place. So we're just going to go ahead and move that. So the rectangle is going to stay the size we want. And then we just move it around. So what I'm going to do is bind the center point to that. I don't do constraints very well. So what I'm going to do is dimensionalize the side of the pod, or the side of the chassis, to the center point. And so half of 55 is 27.5.
7.5.
So now that's on center. So now how much of a hole do we need, or since this is the pod, how much behind the pod do we need for body posts?
About 8 millimeters.
Okay, so we'll just make that dimension 8 millimeters. Boom. All right, does anybody know, or somebody's got a caliper and a pod with them handy? How big are the pod lug holes, like that the pod actually goes into? I realize that I'm just kind of throwing circles in here because we're going to change
2
everything.
millimeters?
How many?
2 millimeters, I believe.
2.5 probably.
2.5, yeah.
Really? That's pretty small.
Well,
Yeah.
it's 2.5, but there's always a recess, right? There's a counter bore of about 5 to
Yeah,
take
there's-
the head of the screw, but that's
Okay.
from underneath, right?
So the 2.5 is the screw, and then we got the.
And then you got 5 for the hole itself,
Okay.
for the counter bore,
For the recess, yeah.
Okay.
and they're pitched on 20 millimeters apart, centered.
So I'm adding the counter bores. So learning keyboard shortcuts is really speeds up your process. I'm just hitting the letter C. Whenever I want to do a circle based off of a center point, I hit the letter C, and then I just pick the center point, drag it out a little bit, and then I just hit the number for the diameter of that circle. So that's basically what I did there. Then you said that the distance between the center points of those is 20?
20 millimeters, and so it's 10 millimeters either side of the.
Okay, so I'll do the same thing over here. Now, there are more efficient and more adjustable and better ways to do everything. I'm using the most basic of things, right? Drawing circles, saying how far the circles should be apart from one another. Now I gotta make sure that these are on center, so I'm gonna do another dimension to that center point, and half of 20 obviously is 10, not 130.
Or 103 for that. Yeah.
Or 103, 10, there we go. And then same thing over here. This center point to that center point, 10. Now, how far away from the pod do the center points of those stick out? I'm just going to put 5 in for now.
It's not 5, it's less, it's 3.5.
That makes sense. You think 3.5 is pretty accurate?
3.3 is what I've got.
Oh dear, okay.
I want to insert that. Check both the front and the back because I'm curious if they're both the same.
I think the back ones are closer. I think the back ones are 3 millimeters, maybe a little less.
Yes, they are.
You both think
Well,
finding the center point to another surface can be difficult. Sometimes it's easier to find the distance between the flat surface and the outside of a circle, like the post or whatever,
Right.
and then you subtract the radius of that circle. So we know the radius of the circle is 5 millimeters for the cutout. But you're thinking,
Dennis, I still think it's 2.5.
Okay.
I think it's both. They're both 2.5.
2.5 from the edge of the pod to the center of the screw
Yeah,
on both the front and the back.
both the front and the rear.
Okay, so now we're going to need to make those little cutouts for the arms or the legs or whatever of where the pod, hangs those little circles off of, right? So I'm just going to do a line, hit the letter L for line. I'm just going to pick the top of here and go straight across to there, and then do the same thing there to there, because we just need to make sure it's big enough for that to go in. And then I'm just going to repeat that process. Now there's ways of doing patterns, and like I could define distances, and see that dotted line that just kind of popped up? That's because the CAD program knows that I just did something way over there, and then I might want it to be perfectly in line the next time I do it over here. So that's actually what I'm going to do, is click that and let it kind of know where I want that to be. But sometimes it's smarter than its own good. So sometimes you got to fight against that tendency for it to want to lock into things.
Actually, Greg, I got a different one. They're both 3 millimeters, the distance. I was going to the screw, and I've got one without a screw in it.
All right. And that's the cool part. All I've got to do is hit that number again. And yeah, it looks like everything is still pretty much good to go. Now, rather than taking up the entire rest of the chat with this, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to finish this sketch and just kind of show you how I would turn this into a printable chassis where a pod can go in. This is kind of the first step. Remember last week I showed you how I did that SCX chassis? The first step was making the hole for the pod, and then I just kind of did a testing to fit that. So now I have this drawing, and it's still 2-dimensional, so I got to make it 3-dimensional. So I'm going to extrude that shape, and let's say 2 millimeters. So there is a thing, but it's just got holes, right? But we don't want these to fill the total amount, so we're going to extrude these shapes. Uh, 1 millimeter.
I'm glad there's people like you that can do this for me.
And I'll tell you what, the best Christmas present I've gotten in a very long time was a space mouse, or otherwise known as a 3D mouse, or Connexion is the brand. So I have my regular mouse where I'm moving my cursor, but I also have a thing that's like a joystick where I can turn this thing any way that I want.
So that you don't need to press 2 buttons.
And so that I don't need to use my mouse to click and do a keyboard button and then click and drag and stuff like that. There's also other features like this thing up top. You can click and drag that around. But once you get used to using a space mouse, you're like, I don't ever want to not have one.
A space mouse.
Yep, that's the generic term.
Greg,
or a 3D mouse.
Can you make this fit a 1/32 scale Chaparral 2G?
I mean, all I need is
Yes, he
dimensions.
can.
Right? The hardest part is making the thing that you design fit. So it's not a matter of putting the design into the CAD so much as getting the correct dimensions that you're putting into the CAD. Like
now as a total neophyte, instead of wasting material and time doing a 3D print to test, can you print it on paper just to fit the dimensions?
Sure. I mean, I could export
print a drawing.
Yeah, you can export as a drawing. I don't do a whole lot of that, but Fusion 360 and most CAD programs will have a way to have it be a technical drawing document that you can then, do a 2D print of in actual size. But, 3D printing material. You know, once you have a bit of experience with the CAD and how it ends up as a 3D print, you can be fairly confident that what you're printing will be close, if not functional. Anyway, so I did the little plateaus, I guess, for the pod lugs to go on by 1 millimeter. So I'd done the chassis plate as 2 millimeters, and I'm just doing 1 millimeter for those. So they're down set. So I'm going to make the sketches disappear so you can see this a little bit more easily. Now, does that look like something you could screw a slotted pod to?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they actually be elevated instead of recessed?
What was that?
So this is the underneath. You're looking down on the underneath of the chassis.
Yeah, I mean, this could be either way.
Oh, yeah.
So this is what I was thinking was the top of the chassis.
Oh, okay.
So the pod would go down in from
Oh,
above.
I think we were all thinking that it would be flat, and then that
You mean like that?
yeah, with the but then those slots that you put in are not necessary. You just needed
there
the
would be
recess.
So I'm just
4 millimeter post where those holes are instead of just holes.
Yeah, so then we can do that. So let's go ahead and turn my sketch back on. You can see I've never actually designed a chassis for a slotted pod yet.
Garth, do you have a question about what Greg's doing?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Garth, if you have a question about this.
My question is, if you had a 2D DXF of a chassis, I mean, flat out, 2D drawing, 3 views.
Yeah.
Could you import it into this software?
Yes, in fact, I can insert a DXF or an SVG, and it will be dimensionally accurate, or I can scale it as necessary. I often do that. So a lot of the projects that I work on, I'll search for the image, and then I'll see if I can get that image as a vector, which is an SVG, and I assume DXF is also vector style, and then import that. And basically, if it's vector, then it becomes a sketch in the CAD program, and then I can extrude directly off of that, or add lines or delete lines from that vector image. If it's not vector, if it's a pixel image like a JPEG or any number of other pixel images, I can still stick it in there as what they call a canvas, and then I scale it appropriately. Like if I know the dimension of a part of that drawing, then I can say, this line from here to here is 100 millimeters, and then the whole drawing gets appropriately scaled to that size. Or for example, when I'm doing a router base plate for doing routed tracks for people for their router, I'll have them send me a picture of their router, looking straight at the base plate with a ruler laid across the base of the router. And then I just say, okay, that point on the ruler to that point on the ruler is 10 inches or however many inches or millimeters it is. And then boom, the picture of their router is the exact right scale for me to just draw circles and, place the holes for their base plate mounting screws and stuff like that, using the image as a template. So I love vector files. So they definitely make CAD a lot easier, just being able to slap a vector file of some sort on there and then say, make that, 2 millimeters thick and make that, 5 millimeters thick. And then you go adding chamfers and fillets and, pushing walls one way or the other.
So if I made a 2D file, a DXF file of a chassis, and every dimension was on it in every view, you wouldn't have to do anything other than just plop it in there and then add the extrusion depths.
Pretty much.
They're needed. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the more information that is provided, the easier that process is.
Yeah, because you don't have to measure anything because the measurement was on the 2D DXF. Okay.
Yeah, well, let me kind of use this as an example. Let's say, so this first sketch that I made of this big plate with the hole for the pod was your plan view from those DXF drawings. Was that's the plan view. If you gave me an elevation, I wouldn't necessarily be able to have the CAD combine the plan and the elevation into a 3D thing in and of itself, but I would then be able to use the dimensions from the elevation to extrude the plan view to the appropriate height.
Yeah.
Maybe later on I could use the elevation as another sketch on the side of the plan after I've extruded it to then cut away things that shouldn't be there. Because when you do an extrude, you can either create a shape or cut through an existing shape with that sketch that you're then extruding through it. So there's lots of different ways that kind of file does make the process a lot faster and easier. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
Sure. Anybody else got any questions? Kev, did you have a question on what I'm doing?
I've got one.
Well, Kev's got his hand up. What you got, Kev?
Okay.
Well, what I did is I saved the whole pod and the hole for the pod and the pod, and I just put the hole into the chassis, and then that's it done. And you can do sidewinder, angle winder, inline, everything.
Yeah, it's all about starting off with all the appropriate information, and then once you've got that in your CAD, then you're just moving things around depending on what car you're putting it under, right?
Yeah, but it took a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. And I mentioned
even the the little tabs what you put the wires into at the side.
Mm-hmm.
I got put them in. I don't know if you can see the cameras. Oh yeah, you can. Can you just see that?
That's nice. That's one of your 3D printed chassis?
Yeah. This is for a NASCAR, scale electric NASCAR.
Very nice.
But it's the scale electric NASCAR's got two posts, mounting posts at the back.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't want to. I wanted just one, so I've done the
Oh, you done a center post? Sure.
And just done a center post at the back.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean that I mentioned it last week. That's one of the hardest parts is getting the correct dimension, but then when you think you have the correct dimension, you still have to check it against whatever you're trying
Yeah,
and then move it. And then
Fusion looks a lot better anyway. A lot easier to use than it just took me hours and hours and hours.
What were you using?
Is it Tinkercad?
Tinkercad, yeah. It's all about how your brain works, right? I've seen people do amazing things with Tinkercad that can't do diddly squat with Fusion or vice versa. So I always suggest try Tinkercad if that works for your headspace, have at it. If it doesn't, try Fusion or try SolidWorks or there is Open SCAD or OpenSCAD as I call it, is basically an open source logarithmic or programming style CAD where you're basically saying you're typing in the text for rectangle here turned into a cube or I don't know how it works, but there are people who do amazing things, and they're not drawing like I did. They're typing in X and Y and Z and all that kind of stuff, and then it appears because the program is translating those into three-dimensional works. And I'm like, if you can do that, then go for it. Whatever works for you.
So Greg, in other words, you can actually use keystrokes to design as well as just WYSIWYG.
Yeah, you would not even need a mouse. The whole time you're just typing, and then part of your screen is filled with your code, and the other part of the screen is showing you what that turns into.
So that's a serious user then, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Or it's a different kind of user, right? Somebody who's their head is all about math inside their head kind of people, and I haven't tried it, so maybe I should try it. Maybe I'll be good at that. I have no idea, but I'm happy with Fusion, so I'm basically just going to keep learning how to do that. Henry, you had piped in a second ago. What were you going to say?
Did you ever add a chassis under a copier? So you make a copy on your copper photocopy.
I've put things on my flatbed scanner.
Yeah, the scanner.
I've put things on my scanner in order to get a dimensionally accurate photograph, basically, of that.
Mhm.
then use that as a template. I haven't done it with a chassis, but I've done it with other things.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And that's a great, it's basically you're getting a really, really good quality, non-parallax, non-perspective image of the thing that you're trying to copy. The hard part is that most scanners have a lid that doesn't go up, right? So the thing you're putting on the scanner has to be literally, flat, because otherwise the lid won't go down or you'll crush the thing that the lid is sitting on. But usually you can get a half decent scan about it. So, but yeah, I'll put a ruler on the scanner and the thing that I'm scanning right next to the ruler, scan it, and then use that as a canvas, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, that would make chassis replication a lot quicker. If you have a functional chassis for the car you want to do a 3D printed chassis for, by all means, yeah, slap that on the scanner and get a scan of it.
That's something I've just learned now, isn't it?
Hey, you learn something new every day, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to have a go at that. I've been trying to draw a chassis and I'm getting nowhere. Now you give me an idea. I've got a...
I mean, I could spend more time, we could draw, the pillow blocks for axle holding and other stuff, but it's really just, depending on the CAD program you use, it's, how do I make in this program? And in Fusion 360, generally speaking, you draw a two-dimensional sketch of what you're going to turn three-dimensional, and then you bring it up by an extrusion process to make it three-dimensional. And, as you saw, I did a bunch of lines and then I extruded different sections a different amount so I could have pockets or columns or whatever. And then I could go back in later and push walls one way or another, pull a wall out if I needed to, or push it back so it's thinner, or put a chamfer on things and all kinds of stuff to make it look cooler. Big Den, did you have a question for me? Do you have something you want to share?
Just to comment on the whole process there. I mean, when you start off designing a pod, to me, replacement pods or alternate pods are something that the hobby really needs. I think of some of our SCX-based classes down here where the motors are getting really old, and they've got these proprietary pod sizes and things that won't take the motors that are currently available. And something where you could just drop in a new pod that takes an S can or FK 130 or the long can in place of where the RK or RX SCX motors. I mean, back in the early days or the old days, Ninko, there's a separate pods you could put in for the NC1 or the NC5 motors. It didn't hinge or anything, but you just unbolted it with two screws and put in the replacement pod. There was a company in the States called Divas 3D that did this sort of thing for, back a few years. I think this guy's name was Jeremy, they sort of, concentrated on probably more lucrative pursuits, but, for the hobbyist designer, could, design something 3D, and then if, the STL file could be made available for a cost or public domain, whatever was, whatever was, the architect's pleasure, if I can put it that way. It just seems to me there's a market of sorts out there.
Oh, there absolutely is, and as we've talked before, Henry showed his example of the Range Rover or the Land, whatever it was that, he's got his own 3D printer. He downloaded those files from a company that's where they see the market is providing those downloadable files for people to print out. And then there are still companies who are preferring to stick with the designing and printing, or only allowing their products to be printed through a service like Shapeways or whatever. They don't want end users to print their things, which is totally understandable from a quality control kind of point of view. Like, they know that Shapeways quality is going to be a certain level, but they don't know what Joe Blow's printer is going to churn out, and they don't want Joe Blow to be mad at them for how Joe Blow's print turned out. But eventually, maybe 10 years from now, people are going to have printers that are fairly reliable, straight out of the box. Just like today's inkjet printers. You buy the printer, you send a print job, and it comes out perfectly functional. Presumably, we'll have that kind of technology in 10 years, and then the people who haven't been planning for that day are going to be scrambling, going like, "Oh my God, all these other companies have already gotten their business model in line with that market, but we haven't." Oh no. What do you got today, Alan? Caught you off guard.
Yeah, caught me off mute. Your 3D chassis, I was looking at the 3D chassis because when you said you were going to do this, I started looking at one and thinking, what would it take to do this? And what occurred to me is while you were doing your nice flat plate there is the majority of chassis are not like that.
Yeah.
There's lots of complexity in here and steps. If you look at the back end of this is an old chassis from a company called Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So this has got a pod in it.
Yep.
So when you start looking at trying to do something like this, designing from scratch, that's quite difficult. See, is it just a matter of it just takes time, lots of measurements, and then you have to learn the CAD and then learn how to create these curves? Is that really what goes on?
Pretty much, yeah. That's a good example of what I ran into with the SEX NASCAR chassis, because the back of it isn't flat. It doesn't go straight from the back wheels, continuing with that plane. It goes up at an angle and then it goes off at another angle, underneath the trunk area of the body. But at first I started flat, and then later on I did another plane up at a higher level where I had the rear body post at a higher level, but that was still flat, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I can't just leave it flat the whole time. So then I ended up doing other sketches. I used my flat plane sketch as a cutaway, and then I did a side sketch at the right angle, or at close enough of an angle sideways, and then I used the other sketch to cut away the stuff that wasn't actually there, right, in the chassis. That's just a technique. There are lots of ways with Fusion and other powerful CAD programs like that to basically say, okay, I want a three-dimensional body between the 2 dimensions of this sketch here on one plane, and then the 2 dimensions of this sketch here on another plane in a different place at a different angle, and it'll do that. It'll just say, okay, between these 4 points and these 4 points, boom, there's a 3-dimensional body there, and that's how that chassis would have been done.
So what you're saying is this is a lot of work if you've got those kind of chassis, and because there's no such thing as a 3D scanner, there is no way to do a kind of a flat photocopy and then touch it up quickly. It's just a lot of work. Just have to measure everything, try it, print it, offer it up, throw that away, adjust it, try it.
I mean, the people, I am not skilled in this, right? So don't look at me as somebody who's skilled. Look at me as somebody who is not skilled, showing that you can still do something that's very basic and functional.
It takes a long time.
Takes a very long time, or a whole lot of work to get to the point where a person could do what you're talking about in the same amount of time that I was doing what I was showing. But as far as scanning an existing thing, the 3D scanning technology is getting better, but it's still not at the point where you're going to have an editable and nicely printable chassis. It's going to be just a mess of points in a 3-dimensional field of space that then get connected by triangles, and it's just going to be ugly. But eventually,
Can I share a screen.
Maybe I don't feel so bad about the cost of some of these 3D chassis now. You're
No.
giving me an appreciation about how hard this stuff is to do.
Absolutely, Oliver's chassis and other companies like that are doing a fantastic job, and they're making fantastic products. The only thing that I would prefer that Oliver and similar companies did was say, look, if you want to give it a go with your printer, resin printer, FDM printer, some people have SLS like Shapeways printer. I know Gary bought a used SLS printer and is going to take a stab at that hopefully soon. You can have that technology. So hopefully one of these days, Oliver will say, okay, you can buy this chassis for $5 or £5 or whatever, rather than $20 through Shapeways, and give it a go. But it's absolutely worth every penny, because it's a lot of work, not only in the initial CAD, but then all the printing and testing and checking and updating and, what were you going to share, Dennis?
I was going to share this.
Oh yeah, pot.
And can you see it?
Yeah, is that like for an F1 or something, or?
Well, no, it will have two of these blue pieces, one each side eventually, that will be loose and separate from that center section. But just to give you an idea, I mean, there's probably 25 or 30 hours of my work in trying to do this. Granted, it was one of the first ones that I tried to do. It took me a long time.
Have you gone through?
I haven't actually printed it yet.
I was going to say, so you still might have some iterations to go through.
Definitely, yeah.
Did you have a question, Garth?
No, well, I just have a comment about the difference between designing something for a 3D printer and designing something to be molded, or injection molded, And so when you're, if you were, say you were going to take a Scalextric chassis and turn it into a potted chassis, there's plenty of stuff on a molded plastic part with drift and things that are put into it so that it comes off the mold a certain way. You know what I mean? That would be that you could ignore when you were converting it to a 3D printed chassis.
Correct. Yeah, and actually those drift angles cause problems when you're trying to take measurements, right?
Exactly.
Because the top of a post is smaller than the base of the post, and the only reason that's there is because of the drift angle needed for the injection molding release process.
Yes, exactly. And that's if you were, measuring, doing your measuring, you have to realize that, measure to the longest point or the largest point of the drift. So
yeah, and sometimes, the best of my measuring skills are no match for real life. As soon as I put that first chassis under the body, the very first print, I'm like, okay, that's like 2 millimeters off, so I moved that over, and then it was 0.5 millimeter off the other way, so I had to move it back over again and stuff like that. That's obviously where the toy companies have the advantage, because the whole thing starts in CAD. They're not having to match up a real life plastic body to a chassis that they don't already have in CAD. It's already in CAD. Then they do what they need to do. But as far as are there different things in design wise between the two? Absolutely. Like you said, don't need to worry about draft angles for 3D printing. Any 3D printing technology that I'm aware of, you don't need draft angles unless you're then going to cast that as an injection mold or something like that. Some of the things that you can do with 3D printing are like, bridges and stuff like that are harder to do with injection molding, because then you need a much more complex injection with multiple parts from the sides and whatnot. When you're designing for filament printing, you have to keep the fact that it's, squirting molten plastic down in layers in mind, and, try to reduce overhangs and things like that are going to then need supports that are then removed. For example, on the SCX chassis, the front grille is the base of the bumper and the grille are part of the chassis. So I decided to design that into my printable chassis, and of course it's got the air splitter at the very bottom. And then it's got a bit of a bumper kind of thing set back, or, grill, I guess, and then it kind of sticks out again a little bit for a bumper, and it's just a straight, you know, cantilevered overhang, which is fine for injection molding and stuff. But to print that, I needed a bunch of supports. And after tearing away the supports of my first attempt at that, I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. So rather than have it be, you know, a straight 90 degrees, I went ahead and put a chamfer in there. And it looks fine. You know, it's a slot car on a track. I don't need it to be perfectly to scale with that, you know, overhang. Having a chamfer in there allows the print to build on itself and not need any support, because it's supporting itself up to where it's that bumper sticking out, and then it's a straight up wall. So when you are doing when you're doing CAD, knowing what kind of printer it's likely to be used in is something that you can keep in mind and take advantage of, you know, the way that the printer works, or work around the way that the printer works, so that you can have less work to do on your final product. You know, like I did several things in that chassis aside from the bumper, so that I had less cleanup work to do once it came off the printer. You know, early on I had supports inside the screw holes and everything, and supports in places that I didn't want to have to dig supports out of. So I went back and I added chamfers, and I added you know, breakaway floors and things like that are much easier to do cleanup wise after the thing is printed, that you don't have to do for Shapeways style 3D printing, or, you know, injection molding, obviously, or even resin style 3D printing. Is, you know, each type of 3D printing has its own strengths and weaknesses that you have to either work within, take advantage of, or work around. And yeah, that'll be another 2 hours if we keep going into that. Henry, one last minute comment or question, and then we'll end the we'll end the recording, but we'll keep talking. What do you got, Henry? You're muted.
This was the first trial I made for Alpha. I heard it earlier. It cost me 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know of using the scanner. I do another attempt, because the rounded edges are very difficult to scale. And but it drives very good. But it cost me 2 weeks.
Yep.
But it's all about learning by doing.
Yep, learning by doing. And it's, you know, if it's something that you want to do and nobody else is filling your
needs
requirement, then take a crack at it. It's maybe not as bad as you think it is. And like I said, try Tinkercad, try Fusion, try OpenSCAD or SolidWorks or whatever. There's probably a CAD, you know, a 3D modeling program out there that will work for you and how.
It's in your mind, because by Tinkercad you take parts away.
Or build them up. Tinkercad, for those who don't know, Tinkercad is basically you start with shapes, right? You put a block in there, you tell it how big the block is, but if you want a hole in the block, then what you do is you put a cylinder through the block and say that's subtractive. And then if you want to put you're basically adding shapes, and you're able to stretch and change the dimensions of the shape, but then each shape is either adding or subtracting from other shapes. And it's kind of what I do in Fusion as well, except I'm creating the shapes in a different way, and I'm adding to and subtracting from those shapes in a different way.
Well, that's why we're getting Dennis to build a brass chassis for your car, because it'll take 2 hours.
Exactly. He'll just go bada boom, bada bing, and he's done. Right, Dennis?
Yeah, not quite, but close. Yeah.
All
Certainly
right.
in the time that it took me to just do that little bit of CAD that I showed you there. Granted, I'm like probably not even as good as Greg right now. In that time, I could probably have built 2 brass chassis, if not 3.
Yeah, it's all about what your experience is, and the only way to get experience in CAD is to start using CAD.
Yeah. I had stopped using for a long time, and then when I was headed back from South Africa, and I had hours and hours and hours sitting in airports and sitting on airplanes, I pulled my laptop out and I went through all my tutorials again, so that I can remember how to use the CAD program that I have, which is called a Libre. Yeah.
Yeah, and the tutorials are great.
Lose it
There's
quickly if you don't use it.
tons and tons of free tutorials out there for pretty much every CAD program you can imagine. So sometimes it's just about going ahead and picking one, watching some tutorials, and going, playing along with the tutorial so that you're doing the things that they're telling you how to do. You're doing them at the same time. Next thing you know, you're designing chassis and bodies and buildings and whatnot. And on that note, we're going to hit the stop button on the recording as always. Come to a live chat and enjoy the show. And we're going to keep chatting. So come and chat with us after I hit the stop button. For now, I'm hitting the stop button. Bye.